In the quiet moments after a door closes, it is easy to feel diminished, small, invisible, cast aside. Yet in that very silence, there is a secret mercy at work. Being overlooked can become divine preservation. When our name is not written on the guest list, when our efforts go unnoticed, and when our heart's deepest longings seem to echo unheard, we are offered a hidden sanctuary from paths that might have led us astray. What at first feels like rejection can, with time and perspective, be revealed as a shield, a compassionate rerouting by unseen hands that guard our souls against what we were never meant to endure. Consider the countless narratives of those who have faced closed doors only to find later that those very barriers were blessings in disguise. A writer who failed to secure a publishing contract, only to discover that the next opportunity would provide a richer, more receptive readership. A job applicant who was turned away, ultimately landing a position that aligned more deeply with their values and brought out their best talents. A friendship that ended unexpectedly, yet in that departure lay the space needed to forge connections more honest, more enduring. Each instance of no echoes not a final verdict on worth, but rather the gentle intervention of Providence, steering us toward experiences that nurture our growth and align with our highest good. When we embrace this perspective, rejection stops feeling like a personal indictment and instead becomes a form of protection. It invites us to pause, reflect, and recognize that our lives are weaving a tapestry far more complex and beautiful than our limited vision can perceive. It frees us from dwelling on imagined shortcomings and liberates our energy for the next chapter, one that might bloom only because we were not allowed into the garden we initially sought. To flip rejection into protection is to shift from defensiveness to gratitude. It is to whisper a prayer of thanks for each unopened opportunity, trusting that every detour is a rerouted blessing. It is to remember that the universe has a grander map than our own, and that the detours, delays, and dismissals, all the moments we thought were tragedies, may be the very threads that strengthen our character, sharpen our purpose, and illuminate our path. So when you find yourself in the shadows of being overlooked, stand tall in the knowledge that you are cradled by a higher wisdom. Let the sting of rejection transform into the balm of preservation. In the hush of life's refusals, listen closely. You may hear the gentle heartbeat of your true calling, beating steadily, guiding you toward the life you were always destined to live. In the grand mosaic of existence, every footstep, every breath, and every heartbeat is orchestrated by a wisdom far greater than our own. When we feel impatient, when we ache to unveil our gifts, to step into the light, to speak our truth, we may mistake that longing for a sign that the world isn't ready, that fate is conspiring against us. Yet there is another way to see it. Your presence would have broken the room too soon. In divine timing, the universe withholds its stage until every element has settled into place, until the supporting notes have been struck and the perfect moment has ripened. Imagine a symphony played before the audience arrives, the crescendo echoing in empty halls. The notes would dissipate into silence, unnoticed and unappreciated. Similarly, to step into our fullest expression before the world is prepared is to scatter our impact like seeds on barren soil. There is beauty and protection in the waiting. There is grace in the pause that ensures our message lands in receptive hearts, that our light blooms in a garden ready to be illuminated. Consider the acorn buried in the soil. If it were to emerge as an oak before the winter thaw, it would perish in the frost. Its timing is not arbitrary, but life-preserving. Within each of us resides an acorn of purpose, sheltered by layers of patience until the season is precisely warm, the earth precisely ready, and the sun's rays precisely aligned. To leap ahead of that readiness is to risk our fragile potential. To abide in the hush of preparation is to cultivate resilience, depth, and steadfast hope. When doors remain closed and voices go unheeded, it is not a judgment on our worth, but a reminder of divine choreography. Trust that every delay refines your character, every echo of silence deepens your resolve, and every moment of overlooked longing perfects the resonance of your eventual arrival. Your time will come exactly when the world is thirsting for your presence, when the tapestry of collective experience is yearning for the hue only you can contribute. So rest in the grace of the interlude. Tend to your gifts in private chambers, nourish your vision in the quiet, and sharpen your readiness in the invisible hours. Celebrate the space between the question and the answer, for it is in that spaciousness that we grow more fully into the beings we are meant to be. And when the curtain finally rises, know that your entrance will not shatter the stillness but fulfill a divine promise, that the world was waiting exactly, perfectly for you. In the hush that follows the roar of applause, we sometimes mistake the loudest moment for the most lasting one. Yet the first choice, the debut role, the opening draft, the sliver of recognition, was never meant to be your crowning act. That early spotlight may have dazzled, but it was never the forge in which your true legacy would be wrought. Instead, it was the spark that set your greater flame in motion. Consider the oak tree. Its first leaf is delicate, almost forgettable, a mere whisper against the wind. Yet beneath the soil, in darkness and quiet, its roots draw strength and purpose, anchoring it for centuries to come. The grand canopy, the dappled shade that shelters generations, emerges only after seasons of unseen growth. So too with our lives, the initial choice, the applause, the nod of approval, these are but the seedlings of what we were destined to become. When you chose the easier path, the popular project, the familiar role, you gathered fleeting accolades, and that's no small triumph. But those moments were not the summit. They were signposts, guiding you toward the peaks that matter. Each detour, each lesson learned in obscurity, adds ring upon ring to your character. While the crowd cheers for novelty, legacy is crafted in patience, resilience, and the persistence to refine your gifts beyond the edges of the spotlight. Look to the master craftsmen of history. Their first wares might have been serviceable, but their masterpieces reveal the depth of years, the layers of insight gained from every misstep and every midnight spent perfecting their art. Their names endure not because of a single, well-received debut, but because they sculpted something greater than applause. They sculpted time itself. Your journey, too, is an unfolding testament. The applause of today may warm your heart, but it will fade into memory. What you build in quiet conviction, what you polish in the face of doubt, what you nurture when no one is watching, will stand long after the echoes die away. You were never meant to be a moment's wonder. You were destined for an enduring imprint. So honor the first choice for what it was, a starting line, not a finish. Let it kindle your resolve, but never let it define the breadth of your ambition. For you are called not to chase fleeting applause, but to leave a legacy so profound that time itself pauses to recognize its shape. In the moments when our carefully laid plans collapse, when the doors we expected to open slam shut, when the prize we coveted slips through our fingers, we are prone to bristle with indignation. We wonder, how could this happen to me? Why was I denied what I believed was mine by right? But what if every disappointment, every no, every twist away from our own blueprint is in fact an invitation to surrender our ego and step into a grander design? Their backup was heaven's blueprint, and this redirection was never a slight but a summons. When the path we envision is blocked, our first impulse is to backtrack, to retrace our steps and demand that same doorway reopen. Yet divine wisdom seldom travels the obvious road. In refusing our insistence, it bids us look beyond our narrow horizon, to trust that the unchosen avenue leads to a landscape more suited to our true purpose. The backup plan, the one we balk at, was drafted in realms we cannot see, sketched in the ink of providence, and sealed by a hand more skilled than our own. Think of the sculptor who abandons the first rough-hewn form in order to reveal the masterpiece within. The initial shape, however promising, cannot contain the vision that lies deeper in the marble. Only by chiseling away what we thought was essential can the hidden figure stand free. So too must we relinquish the outlines we drew for our lives. Every setback invites us to shed the brittle armor of our ego, the conviction that we know best, and to embrace the humility of co-creation with the divine. In that humility, we discover freedom. We cease measuring our worth by the success or failure of our agenda, and instead gauge it by our willingness to follow the guiding whisper of destiny. We begin to say, "Not my will, but yours," not as an act of defeat, but as the highest expression of faith. We learn that heaven's backup plan is not a consolation prize, but the very blueprint of our ultimate becoming, a design so precise that it unfolds only when we step aside and let its architect work. So the next time you feel the sting of a closed opportunity, pause and breathe. Let go of the bitter refrain, "Why me?" and replace it with the quiet question, "What now?" Open your hands to receive the new direction, for in that surrender you align your soul with the pattern woven before time began. Their backup was heaven's blueprint, a masterpiece in waiting. And when we lay down our egos, we give birth to the destiny we were always meant to live. In the glow of other people's triumphs, it's easy to feel left behind, like a spectator barred from the victory lap. Yet while they reveled in applause and toasts, something far more vital was unfolding in you, a quiet, relentless honing of strength and character. This hidden season, though unseen by the crowds, is the forge where your greatest capacities are formed. Picture the blacksmith at work. The hammer strikes in rhythm, each cool plunge into water only to return to the heat. The process is neither swift nor visible to onlookers, but it is essential. Without those repeated cycles, without the push and pull of challenge and rest, the steel would never gain its resilience, its edge. So too with your own becoming. While others basked in the spotlight, you endured trials that tempered your spirit, sharpened your resolve, and deepened your wisdom. In that quiet workshop of your life, you learned to carry weight you once thought unbearable, to listen for intuition amid noise, and to cultivate patience when instant gratification beckoned. You discovered reserves of courage that only hardship could unearth, and you forged habits of discipline that no fleeting celebration could sustain. Honor this hidden season. Value the solitude that demanded your focus, the setbacks that summoned your innovation, and the stillness that clarified your purpose. When your moment arrives, you won't merely shine. You'll cut through doubt and hesitation with a razor's precision. Your triumph will not be a surprise, but the inevitable result of being meticulously and divinely sharpened. In a world that prizes fireworks and fanfare, your presence is subtler, yet infinitely more profound. You don't bring the spark that dazzles and fades in an instant. You bring the calm that carries a promise fulfilled. While excitement pirouettes across the surface, you settle into the depths, guiding beginnings toward their destined ends. Imagine a river's journey. The rapids thrill the senses, but it is the gentle current that carries the vessel to shore. The roar of white water may quicken the pulse, but true arrival, safe, certain, complete, comes from the unhurried flow that knows every bend and eddy. So too with your influence. You are not the burst of adrenaline, but the steady current that turns aspiration into achievement. Your power is quiet because it is whole. You see a project through every stage, from the humble first sketch to the final fitting detail. You measure success not by applause, but by the satisfaction of a task perfectly done. You understand that completion is not a finale, but an offering, a testament that vision, patience, and care together birth something lasting. Celebrate this steadfast gift. In meetings that stretch into deadlines, let your composed voice be the anchor that navigates chaos to clarity. In relationships where emotions flare and fade, let your consistent presence be the covenant that transforms promise into trust. In your own heart, honor the path from seed to harvest, for it is in that journey, steady and unfaltering, that quiet power reveals its most potent truth. You don't just ignite possibility, you bring it home. In the echo of the spotlight's fade, you may feel unseen, as if the world has moved on from your story. Yet it is precisely in that moment, when applause has quieted, that your truest work begins. You were made for recovery, not applause. Your calling is not the bright debut or the swelling ovation, but the steadfast return. The second arrival that carries with it the weight of lessons learned and the power of a healed heart. When your first ascent faltered, when dreams unraveled or ambitions were met with resistance, you discovered an unexpected truth. Strength is born not in the ease of success, but in the struggle to rise again. Each setback became a crucible, burning away illusions of invincibility and revealing the resilient core within. And though your first arrival may have shimmered with promise, it was your recovery that would carve the path to enduring impact. Recovery is an art of humility. It asks you to gather the fragments of what once was, confidence, identity, vision, and to painstakingly piece them back together with renewed intention. It demands patience when progress is measured in millimeters, and grace when old wounds reopen to remind you of how far you've come. In this deep labor, you learn to honor not only the grand arc of triumph, but the quiet bend of tomorrow's resolve. Your second arrival carries gifts the first could never confer. Empathy born of trial, wisdom forged in the fires of regret, and compassion that flows from remembering your own vulnerability. When you step onto the stage again, you do so less for applause and more as a living testament that recovery is possible, that suffering refines rather than defines, and that the most profound victories are those hard-won in the silence of unseen endurance. Embrace this weight as your badge of honor. Let it anchor your purpose and deepen the resonance of your voice. For in a world dazzled by beginnings, it is the return, scarred, strengthened, and profoundly human, that carries the message of hope. You were made not merely to shine once, but to rise, to rebuild, and to inspire others through the very proof of your own second arrival. In the endless race of life, we often pit ourselves against the achievements of others, measuring our worth by their milestones, comparing our journey to their highlight reels. Yet every time we look outward for validation, we surrender the unique map of our own becoming. Ownership replaces comparison. When you fully claim your story, its triumphs, its stumbles, its hidden chapters, you liberate yourself from the frantic energy of striving to keep up. To own your path is to recognize that your gifts and challenges are tailored to your growth, not to a scoreboard. While comparison fuels anxiety and self-doubt, ownership breeds curiosity and compassion. You begin to ask, what do I truly need? Instead of, why am I not there yet? In doing so, you shift focus from an imagined finish line to the present moment where your real work and your real freedom lives. When you cease measuring against another's yardstick, you reclaim the rhythm of your own unfolding. The pressure to perform dissolves into a gentle inquiry. How can I steward my talents with integrity? How can I honor the pace at which my spirit learns and heals? In that space, striving gives way to steady commitment, and every step becomes an act of wholehearted ownership rather than an attempt to outrun someone else's shadow. Let go of the comparative gaze, own your journey, and watch your energy transform from restless striving into calm, confident creation. In life's grand narrative, the chapter you begin with is seldom the one that defines your destination. Whether you step onto the field in the last inning or stumble out of the gate, the order of your arrival bears no verdict on the prize you ultimately claim. Order doesn't determine outcome. Your slow start is not a mark of shame, but a testament to the resilience you'll forge in rising from behind. Consider the marathon runner who begins the race near the back of the pack. Each stride feels harder, every hill steeper, yet with every passing mile they find a rhythm the likes of which only perseverance can produce. They overtake worn-out front runners, draw strength from the cadence of their own breath, and harness the power of steady, intentional progress. When they cross the finish line, it's not the starting pistol that earns them applause, but the unwavering commitment to move forward, step by step. So release the burden of first or fastest. Let go of the whispering shame that says you've missed your moment. Instead, root yourself in the conviction that growth is neither timed nor linear. Embrace the freedom of knowing that every setback seeds a springboard, every delay hones your focus, and every late bloom can be more vibrant precisely because it was tempered by patience and grit. Your story isn't measured by where you began, but by how boldly you choose to finish. In the tapestry of heaven's design, the number 2 carries no stain of inferiority, only the promise of a grander unveiling. To stand second is not to be overshadowed, but to position yourself for a divine reversal. While the first may catch the eye, it is the second who often steps into glory, anointed by patience and prepared by humility. Think of the sunrise that follows the dawn's first blush. The earliest rays break the darkness, but it is the fuller light that banishes the shadows and brings the world to life. So too with your journey. Perhaps you watched someone else reach the summit before you, felt the sting of almost but not quite. Yet every moment you spent waiting was a season of preparation, each lesson absorbed, each struggle met, sharpening your faith and fortifying your spirit. And now, in the fullness of time, divine reversal moves on your behalf. The second seat becomes the place of honor. The quiet believer steps onto the stage and receives the crown. Victory blooms not from haste, but from waiting well. Your story closes not with the echo of someone else's acclaim, but with the roar of your own triumph. Proof that in God's economy, to be second has never meant to be less, but always to be destined for the greatest reveal.